Okay, welcome to Spirit Lounge, everyone. Good to see you again. This is the final slide deck for the Anguttara Nikaya, the 4 of the 5. Again, it's going to be taking about 40 minutes to get through this, get through what we have to present here. But I hope you're enjoying it so far. Please pass on your comments, and thank you again for your patience listening to this. It's a blessing. Thank you. So I'll put this thing on the screen. And let's walk through this slowly. So this is the Dasaka Nipata under the Anguttara Nikaya, which is the 4 of the 5 collections. As we mentioned before, excuse me, the teachings are built into 5 major sections called nikayas, the 4 of the 5th. They're basically Buddha's teachings into baskets of knowledge, and it's compiled into what's called the Buddhist Pali Canon. The Suttas, nipatas are building blocks of those, and the Anguttara is a section in which you've got a series of teachings going through each passage, each paragraph, each subsection. Each nipata is building the block onto the other one. One gives one teaching, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, and so on and so forth, into a basket and a full collection of teachings over increments. The actual original text is very, very long, and it's condensed into the book that we're going through. You can see on the right hand side of the screen there. Okay, the Dasaka Nipata. On the proof of 8 conduct and virtue being freedom, and freedom from feelings of regret. On the profit of freedom from feelings of regret being joy. And the profit of joy, from joy you get calmness. From calmness you get happiness. On happiness you bring better concentration. And the profit of that is true knowledge. And being bringing knowledge you gain detachment. From the profit of detachment being enlightenment. This is completely true. It's not only logical sense, it is spiritual sense. When we gain freedom, the profit of right conduct, which is all of those virtues and behaviours and practices of detachment and moving away from being simply human and attaching to it. We move away from things, and regret being one of those, and then moves all the way to feelings and joy, to calmness, to happiness, to concentration, to knowledge, to detachment, to enlightenment, and then release. On the necessity of those who believe in the Buddha's teachings to also live out those teachings by undertaking right conduct and practicing virtue. This is effectively saying, when you're studying and trying to become something, then become that in life. This is what transformative spirituality is, and what Mahanji, the very last slide in all of my presentations, are saying. On 10 things that make for a good, complete monk. Faith, virtue, knowledge, teaches easily, moves through the world, preaches the Buddha's teachings with poise, lives simply in the jungle, or just say lives as one wants to live, but not with greed and desire for more and more things. Live with wisdom. Live with wisdom and balance and detachment. Easily attains the formative ecstasies and has destroyed all desires. On 10 factors that conduce the attainment of enlightenment, a monk has developed the 5 supports for spiritual progress. Faith in the Buddha, in good health, is not sneaky or crooked, is true to himself, with his teacher and his friends. Is good to eliminate bad karma, and grows wise in Buddha's teachings. And this monk has selected a place of shelter with 5 qualities. Maybe make your house as such as possible. Discipline from the right town, this just means quiet. A good supply of clothing, arms, bed, and those things necessary when ill. Well, we need this, don't we? We need shelter, we need clothing, we need a good home, warm, clean, good medicine, good health, peace, a bed to sleep on. And there also dwells elder monks who can help progressing in the Buddha's teaching. Well, these are the people you share your passage with. On 10, abiding. Give to dispel 5 hindrances, passion, ill will, indolence, anxiety, and doubt. 6 powers over sense desires, which is form, sound, sense, taste, touch. Ideas, which is mental attachment, and not be overwhelmed by them, and guards the mind. 4-fold support follows, endures, shuns, and destroys. 1. Doubts are eliminated. i.e. the rejection of heretical doctrines such as a world is eternal and not eternal. There's all sorts of duality in some of these scriptures I'm finding. Desires are destroyed, the elimination of sense desire, greed for earthly existence, greed for heavenly existence, has tranquil thoughts, away from sexual thoughts, ill will, violence, has attained the four meditative ecstasies which bring sensation to the pleasant and the unpleasant, cessation to them, has a free mind from ill will, ignorance and greed, and has a mind released into wisdom. On the 10 powers of the Buddha known the possible and impossible, he knows the true reality, knows the past and the present, the future karma of all beings, knows the path to enlightenment, knows all realms of all beings, knows the path to all beings, knows the mental states of all beings, knows all aspects of all four meditative ecstasies, knows the past lives of all beings, has the heavenly eye, sees everything everywhere, is enlightened through wisdom. On the Buddha's 10 motivations for creating the higher code of ethics, for spiritual perfection of the Buddha's community, harmony, to regulate the behaviour of the evil-minded and protect the pure-minded, to destroy desires today and in the future, and future lies, to inspire the faithless, to increase the faith in the faithful, and to embed the Buddha's teachings in the human sphere. All of those make sense for any spiritual theology and philosophy. Okay. On 10 things must remind himself of or question himself about. I am without caste, I am dependent on others, I must be different from the worldly, I must reprove myself from imperfect virtue. Are my spiritual companions reproving me for my imperfect virtue? All I once held dear is impermanent. I am the owner of my karma, creating actions. For better and worse, my life flies by, and I must see these days and nights wisely. Do I take pleasure in nothingness? Have I gained knowledge beyond that is the ordinary person? And if I gain knowledge beyond that of the ordinary person, and if I were questioned on this knowledge, would it appear expert in it? I think all that it speaks for itself. Is a very, very nice passage. On 10 qualities of a monk that conduce to the harmony of the Buddha's community. Virtue and the right conduct, as we said repeatedly, knowledge of the Buddha's wisdom and the ability to apply it. This is important. Virtuous spirituality is just virtuous, it's just mental, it's just repeating and spouting scripture. Are you able to apply it? Do you practice it in action, words and thought? This is where transcendence exists. Spiritual companionship, kindness in the right speech, right effort in all things, delights in the Buddha's teaching and can explain even more difficult aspects of it, has mastered the fourfold way to establish mindfulness, makes the 4 right efforts prevent, maintain, generate, eliminate karma, is content with the robes, food, shelter, meditative accorded to a monk, is perfectly minded and has developed great wisdom. On 10 things a monk must reflect upon in order to increase in spiritual life. And I greedy, do harbour ill will? Am I ignorant? Am I impatient? Am I full of hate? Do I have impure mind? Do I have a violent mind? Am I lazy? Do I have a distracted mind? On the parable of the man with the head and clothes ablaze, explaining that with someone with their head or clothes on fire would seek to extinguish those flames. The way to extinguish those flames is by great effort and mindfulness. On the importance of self-knowledge, if one knows that one is lacking in the necessary quality, such as understanding in the Buddha's teaching. On the dual nature of things, to an increasing merit, decreasing merit. On the importance of self-knowledge, have I extinguished greed, loathing, laziness, impatience, doubt, ill will? Am I at peace? Am I released? On enlightenment, which is supported by 7 factors of enlightenment, which is supported by the fourfold way to establish mindfulness, which is supported by the 3 gods, non-ill will, non-greed, non-ignorance, which are the 3 gods, which is supported by control of mental faculties, which is supported by mindfulness, which is supported by diligence, which is supported by faith, which is supported by true doctrine, which is supported by spiritual teachers. On how those with unshakable faith in the Buddha are stream winners. On the things non-rebirth promises, not cold, not heat, not hunger, not thirst, not feces, not urine, not the pain of fire, not punishment, not the pain of weapons, not the cacophony of friends and family. On the value of becoming virtuous, inwardly quiet and cultivating the four meditative ecstasies in order to be likeable and useful and respected companion in holy life. To be one worthy of alms, that alms givers may develop great merit. To be content with whatever charity is received. To persevere in the face of hardships. To rise above aversion and liking. To rise above fear. To attain the four meditative ecstasies and enlightenment in this life. To destroy all passions and achieve enlightenment in this life. Again, this is geared towards some of it to monks travelling around and existing on alms. This is not what we are doing in modern life, but the rest of it still applies. On 10 types of people in the world, the virtuous and unvirtuous, the diligent or the lazy, the learned and the dense, those with right view and those with wrong view, those destined for higher rebirth and those destined for lower rebirth. Remember, lower rebirth is simply that your garment of your soul is not transcended and not changed. It can also be degraded in its colour and its taint and its hue, and this means that you will revolve around those with soul's vibration that matches yours. A murderer and a rapist will come into life and eventually go around and revolve around those which is murderous and rapists to understand whether that individual will evolve beyond it, or will go back into entrainment, back to what it was before. This is lower rebirth. It's your soul's vibration and its attachment to that vibration. On 10 triple associations, on the 3 reasons the Buddha came into the world: birth, decline and death. On 3 things that must be destroyed in order to end birth, death and decline: ill will, ignorance and greed. On 3 things that must be destroyed in order to end ill will, ignorance and greed: identity, view, doubt, wrong practice. Are those 3 things. On 3 things that must be destroyed in order to end identity, view, doubt, wrong practice, laziness, wrong view and stubbornness. On 3 things that must be destroyed in order to end identity, doubt, wrong practice, laziness, wrong view and stubbornness: failing to remember what was heard, lack of mindfulness and irrationality. On 3 things that must be destroyed in order to end failing to remember what was heard: lack of mindfulness and irrationality, aversion to the Buddha's disciplined disciples, aversion to hearing the Buddha's teachings and enjoyment of fault finding. On 3 things that must be destroyed in order to end aversion to the Buddha's disciples, aversion to hearing Buddha's teachings, enjoyment of fault finding, love of passion, lack of control and evil doing. On 3 things that must be destroyed in order to end love of passion, lack of control and evil doing, faithlessness, miserliness and indolence. On 3 things that must be destroyed in order to end faithfulness, miserliness, indolence, insolence, boorishness and associated with evildoers. All of this is appropriate. We just take out these negative traits and behaviours and attributes and become opposite of those, which is what we would naturally do in any spiritual passage. Okay, on 3 things that must be destroyed in order to end insolence: non-repentance for evildoers, lack of humility, pride in evil actions, and careless living. And how destroy lack of humility is enjoyment in fault finding, aversion to Buddha's teachings. On the Buddha's freedoms, what are those freedoms? He says, which are freedom from body, sensations, illusion, the mental factors, consciousness, rebirth, decline, death, desires and mind. Removing detachment from those things or understanding them from a gnosis perspective is freedom. On 10 hindrances to understanding: does not visit monks to learn the Buddhist teachings. Well, we don't have to visit monks, but going into understanding what you need to learn and understanding your gnosis in the spiritual practice that you're in. Visits monks but does not ask questions. Well, does not ask questions to scriptures and understanding and taking them as read, which is just following and not using discernment, which means you're not using or progressing in your spirituality. Always discern and question everything and ask questions about them. Does not listen or listen carefully. Visit monks, asks questions and listens carefully but does not retain what is heard. Visits and asks questions, listens carefully, retains what is heard but does not investigate. Visits amongst, asks, listens, retains, investigates the meaning and does not understand. Visits amongst, asks questions, listens carefully, retains, investigates, understands but does not live according to those teachings. Asks a monk but does not speak kindly. Again, visits monks, asks questions, listens, retains, investigates, understands, lives to those rules, speaks kindly, does not teach, and visit monks, and again, asks, listens, investigates, retains, understands, speaks, teaches, does not inspire others in a holy life. There are many things. So it's saying, you know, at the end of all spiritual transition, is we pass it on to others. We pass on teachings and understandings to others for their journey. On bragging being the result of an unstable mind. This is true for all avatars. What do avatars do when they reach their own enlightenment, when they come and they understand their purpose? What do? They teach others. And why do they teach others? Well, they teach others to bring them closer to grace. It's all about that passage. On bragging being the result of an unstable mind. On pride leading to the ability to learn what must be learned. On pride resulting from greed, ill will, laziness, unsound mind and doubt. On the householder defending the Buddhas against claims of ascetics that the Buddhas preached against austerity, claiming that the Buddhas preached against austerities, which is true. We don't need to be austere, and self-flagellating austerity and suffering austerity is not the passage to grace. Clarifying that the Buddha preaches against austerities that lead to demerit and preaches for austerities that lead to increased merit. Okay, on 3 thoughts cultivated that lead to 7 qualities cultivated. 3 thoughts. I am without caste, I am dependent on others, I must be different from worldly. We've read this before. From virtue, greed, anger, pride, keen to train, content with necessities of life and perfect effort. On Buddha's emetic for impurities and suffering. Wrong view being thrown out by right thought, wrong speech being thrown out by right speech, wrong action by right action, wrong livelihood by right livelihood, wrong effort by right effort, wrong mindfulness by right concentration, wrong knowledge by right knowledge, wrong liberation through right liberation. On 10 things that lead to gain, on 10 things that lead to loss, on the holy teaching, on bad karma, on useful teaching, on correct doctrine, on the states to be desired, on false doctrine, which is wrong view, and right doctrine, on self-abuse and not self-abuse, which is this austere self-flagellation and suffering perspective. And what brings suffering and what generates bad karma, on the noble path, on the pure path, on the true knowledge to cultivate, on the knowledge not to cultivate, on teaching set aside, wrong livelihood, wrong effort, wrong mindfulness, concentration, wrong knowledge, wrong liberation, on the knowledge to be remembered and recalled, on the knowledge to be understood, which is right view, right thought, right speech, action, livelihood, right effort, and right liberation. Okay, on the worldly shore, which is killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, slandering, harsh talk, foolish talk, greed, ill will, ignorance. On the holy shore is abstaining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, slandering, harsh talk, foolish talk, greed, ill will, and ignorance. This is right view. On how a monk with 10 worthy qualities should be associated with, should be listened to, is honourable, is worldly, recalls teachings, has mastered the teachings, is pure and is humble, is wise, abstains from killing, sexual misconduct, ill will, and ignorance, should not be associated with, should not be listened to, prideful, not wise. These are those other ones. The opposites. On how all living things are the creator, the owner, and the heir of their own karma. This is true. For better and for worse. On the Buddha's preaching that there will be no end for rebirth until all karma formations are eliminated. This for me is karma is effectively marks and the discolorization of the soul through actions, words, thoughts and intentions that are not led by grace. Once you lead your actions, words, thoughts and intentions through grace, then your garment is cleaned, your taints and hues on your soul better match that which is emanated by the divine breath of spirit within you. This releases you sufficiently enough from the embodiment of incarnational physical life, from rebirth into human form or any other physical form. Your soul no longer needs it, therefore it evolves beyond it. There is energetic non-matter form beyond that. We can never be fully pure in human form. On the Buddha's preaching that there will be no end to rebirth until all karma formation is limited on 3 types of intentionality, evil thoughts, unintentionally evil thoughts, 4 types of intentionally evil speech. There are evil actions leading to lower rebirth indefinitely until karma formations are eliminated, i.e. the changing of the hue of your soul. Intention, which remember the hue of the soul is changed, the mind changed accordingly, and the heart traverses accordingly. All 3 move in the same movement. On the Buddha's preaching that there will be no end to rebirth until all karma formations are eliminated, on how to eliminate karma formations through meditation and progress towards enlightenment. Filling the mind with loving kindness and calm, knowing that past actions lead to present situation. When karma experience it is dispelled. On 9 elements of thought. Thoughts giving names to shapes, elements. We've read some of this before. Giving variety to the names and shapes. Contact leading to rise of thoughts. And then you go in through enlightenment. Sensation of desires. Sensation of desires going into discursive thinking. The 3rd meditative ecstasy going into pleasure and unpleasantness and pleasantness. Going into physical perceptions beyond. Into infinite cognition, expanding up grace, divine perception into infinite space, then to infinite nothingness, and then going into either consciousness or non-consciousness beyond that, and into this perception of nothingness, from a move from contact and sensation, and into all nibbanic mental perceptions are gone too. This is taking you through that passage. And the parable of the cow, again, we won't go through that. And finally, on Buddha's preaching that there will be no end to rebirth until karma formations are eliminated. Again, we've gone through this. These kind of things are repeated in different parts of this book. It's karma, soul's hue, and cleaning of that, and matching the resonance of the spirit. Okay, so I want to say thank you for this. And for listening to this, and again, remember Mahanji, the last passage. The passage to enlightenment is always be yourself. It's transformative and not virtue signaling. Make it transformative. It's the only thing that matters. It's a hard passage to take, but one that will get you where you wish, where your soul is seeking to go. That is the sound, the voice that's coming up and welling up beneath you, driving you forward. Thank you for listening. I'll be a little while until I can transcribe the final section of the Nikayas, and we'll go through them later, but I hope you enjoy these and are getting value from it. Please leave your comments and and pass it on to anyone who would benefit from this channel. Again, we're going to go through many scriptures, many thoughts and philosophies, because you know what it is? It is what's described in all of them. It's enlightenment through gnosis of knowledge and truth, and teaching and understanding what the message is that's in those words, independently and into your own church. I thank you, and God bless you all until next time. Thank you.